A couple quick announcements. Reminder, this week is the annual recognition by the American Football Coaches Association of the Curing or Coach to Cure MD program. The coaches on both teams this week will be wearing special patches commemorating that observance, and we have handouts, which some of you may already have, with that information. Also, the Tennessee game is 3:30 CBS.
Appreciate it, Claude. Moving on to Ole Miss, an extremely talented football team. That's all you know. They have two losses to two really good football teams, and we got a great challenge in front of us. They have a very good head coach who does a great job in all aspects of their program. I'm very familiar with their program, and they've been very successful since Coach Freeze arrived. Probably arguably one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I got a lot of respect for this guy. I mean, I've seen this guy play since he was in high school. We recruited him. I've been around him. I know a lot about him. He was at junior college right over by Tuscaloosa. So, he's a great player. They've got really good wideouts around him. And they've got one of the most disruptive defenses in the country. And I know statistically you'll try to find weaknesses in their defense, but when you watch them, they are very talented. And they've got a good ball team. And we've got to focus on us. We've got to focus on getting our team better. And we've got some deficiencies that we've really got to work on, and we're going to try to improve those this week. With that, I'll open it up.
Coach, obviously you guys are going to see a spread again and pass-oriented, it appears. Is that a good thing that you've already seen it, or is this markedly different? Are they saying, how do they compare?
They're very talented. They're different spread than, say, Missouri. They run the ball. They don't, people say they don't. They're committed to the run. They have to protect their offensive line. But the quarterback is as talented as I've seen, as I said, in throwing the ball. He doesn't make many mistakes. He's very athletic, which makes it hard to get him on the ground. When you do get a guy free or you do win in pass rush, because he can scramble. And the wideouts are big and physical, and there's a bunch of them. And some of the most talented ones are true freshmen. And I don't know that I've seen a group as deep as this one, from top to bottom at wide receiver, where there's so many guys that can go in the game and play, and they don't drop off when they change out guys. And that includes the tight end, who's especially talented. So, yeah, we got a great challenge ahead of us. I mean, they've played two really good defenses on tape, and they've scored a lot of points and got a lot of yards. So, you see I haven't shaved.
Kirby, you've been in your years in the league. Why has the gap between the West and the East gotten as big as it's gotten?
I have no idea. I'm worried about Ole Miss, brother.
You mentioned their tight end. When defending a spread like this, how important is the alignment of where they put him, and also just how can editing or disrupt things for you guys defensively?
Well, he's talented. He runs like a receiver. They put him in spots where he can get vertical down the field. The guy runs by DBs, and he's a tight end. So when you got a tight end that runs faster than your DBs, you got a problem, because he can get matched up on a linebacker, and they do a really good job of putting him in situations to get him the ball. And he's a good blocker too, and they don't ask him to do a whole lot of blocking, but what he has to do, he does well.
Coach, can you take lessons learned from last week with Locke when you go up against a guy like Kelly, who is willing to go downfield but also willing to take off with the ball if need be?
Explain what you're asking. If we learned lessons from
can you take just from how you defended Drew Locke when you go up against a guy like Kelly?
Yeah, Drew Locke didn't run very much. He didn't take off and run. And he has the capability. He's got the athletic ability. He just chose not to. This kid is not like that. This kid is willing to do that. I actually think he enjoys it sometimes, because he's like a linebacker playing quarterback. I mean, he's a little bit of a rodeo bull rider down the sky. He can do anything, and he's good at it. Trust me, I know from experience. He's good.
Kirby, with your familiarity with Ole Miss, how is that in terms of your preparation with the personnel, and also what do you remember about your trip stops?
As far as the preparation, I mean, it just helps knowing you're familiar with their offense. So it's like when you turn the tape on, you get a lot of, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. You've seen that. Where that wasn't the case last week, there was a lot less. But it really doesn't matter, because you still got to go out and stop them. It's just there's familiarity, but they have familiarity. They played against a defense extremely similar to ours twice already. So, and when it comes to scheme, they probably already know what they're going to do. You know, Hugh Freeze probably went home last night at 5:30 in the afternoon because he knew what he was going to do against our defense. He's seen it before. So it's our job to try to create confusion and make it harder on them.
Coach, dealing with a team that's coming off of 2 losses like they have, what are you going to have to do to match Ole Miss's hunger and intensity that they will probably be bringing into this game?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that because our hunger and intensity better be pretty intense to go to Oxford, Mississippi, one of the top teams in the country the last 2 or 3 years, and go play on the road in the SEC, which we learned last week is extremely difficult, and the environment will be just as or more chaotic when we go to Oxford, Mississippi. I can reassure you that. So our guys will be ready to play, and we got to get them focused on it. You know, the challenge to me is a lot more about the time that we play for both teams. It's a different environment when you crank it up early.
Kirby, in terms of defending the spread and the pass-happy offense, and in terms of pass rush, what's the difficult balance in trying to pressure him, but also have enough guys back?
I mean, that's like a question that keeps you up at night. There is no answer to that. You know, there's no perfect answer to that. You can say, well, you rushed him and you're wrong, or you covered him and you were wrong. I mean, ultimately, you have to have guys that dominate their box. So if I'm lined up over the guard, I have to be able to beat that guard one-on-one because somebody's going to get one-on-one matchups. I'm not for bringing more than they can block because they got guys out there that can run and catch the ball. And it's the dynamic that we deal with all the time. There is no right or wrong answer to that. You got to be able to pitch. You got to throw a fastball. You got to throw a curveball. You got to be able to change it up. You got to throw a slider. You can't do the same thing all the time. And I've sat and watched 3 teams play them, and nobody's really slowed them down. So from that standpoint, you got to create turnovers. You got to do a great job of affecting the quarterback. But that's hard to do with this guy because he's seen it all before. There's nobody that's invented a defense against the spread that's going to stop it totally. They are producing offensive numbers for a reason. They have really good players. So you're a lot better off saying, I'm going to play sound defense, cause turnovers, stop them in the mid area, force field goals, don't give up big plays, all the things we preach on defense. That's what's important to stop the spread.
Coach, you talked about the kickers after the game the other night. What can you do at this stage, though, to get the confidence level of both those guys where it needs to be? And do you have any other guys here on the team now that you could possibly look to as maybe some competition for them?
Well, they got competition between each other, and that'll continue. I mean, we kick field goals almost every day now, so it's a matter of putting them in situations to get them to kick better. I can't simulate the people in the stands that they have to deal with, and that's something that each one of them's got to work on individually, and we're trying to help them with. But to be honest, we've got to practice it, and we're going to continue to do that.
Coach, you guys have struggled to score off turnovers so far this year. How much do you stress that, especially playing a team as dangerous as Ole Miss?
We always stress it. I mean, we want to score every time we get a possession, but especially after a turnover, we get it in their territory. We want to get down there and get points out of it. And I think one of the big struggles with that is we haven't made some of our field goals and we haven't capitalized on them. But it's something that we talk about all the time. Starting off the season, that was a big focus for our offense, was to be in the red zone and be able to score touchdowns and not have to score field goals. So that's a big part of being able to run the ball too.
Coach, what are some of the challenges that eliminating local time kickoff presents to you?
Well, the biggest thing is getting the mentality of your players right. You know, it's a different mentality when you have to do that. The night before is different. It's nothing like our trip last week where we've got 2 meetings, one at night, one the day of the game. This is a wake up, eat pregame meal, go play. And they've got to have their mindset ready for that. I think Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are important for that because they have to have a routine. And we want to keep that routine. And I think that's a big advantage for whichever team handles that best.
We saw what happened on 4th and 10 at the end of the game Saturday. I'm curious, what did you see in the timeout leading up to that play, and what did that reveal to you about Eason?
You know, that really didn't reveal anything about Eason to me because I've seen that in practices and I've seen him compete. But, you know, to be honest with you, that play's done to me. We got to worry about Ole Miss. They're going to have some really fast guys rushing. So I'm really worried about what they got rushing, number 10 especially.
Kirby, how much more comfortable, you talked after the game about Jacob growing up. I mean, just how much more comfortable are you after 3 weeks than you were going into the season?
You know, I don't know how much more comfortable. I think that the reps he's gotten, he's grown, he's gotten better. The kid's grown up a lot. And I think with each and every rep, he's got to continue to grow. You know, when you make one mistake, you don't try not to make that mistake again. When you don't call a play right, you try to call that play right every time from now on. So he's shown the propensity that when he makes a mistake once, he can usually correct that. But you're talking about exponentially how many things that can happen in a play that he's never seen. And now you're trying to fix all those things. And sometimes they got to happen before you fix them. You don't learn unless you get the experience. And he's got some valuable experience the last 3 games, but let's be honest, it's a freshman.
Coach, on Jacob Eason, you may not like this question, but I don't think anybody's had a chance to ask you. Yeah, he hadn't been available. He wasn't available after the game. I've talked to him before in recruiting. He's obviously a smart guy, a quarterback, and he was intimately involved in that game and that play. Why isn't somebody like that available for interviews? What's your thinking there? You don't want a freshman. He's old enough to be drafted and go fight for our country.
Right, no doubt. What year is he in school?
Freshman.
We have a policy here, and Jacob Eason adheres to that policy too. Thanks.
Coach, second look after Saturday's game at the film, anything stand out to you about him? And also, are you prepared to name him as your starter?
Yeah, you know, the big thing with Jacob is he's improved every game, and that's what we want to continue to do. He continues to improve and develop. It helps our offensive football team. You know, Jacob has done a good job up to this point. He has to stay in that mindset of being able to execute our offense. That's the most important thing. Yeah, and Jacob's going to be able to start our game, assuming he has a good week of practice. He will, but that's the plan going forward, is that he continues to practice well and do the right things, and he'll be the starter.
Kirby, is there an adjustment when you change offensive line coaches in terms of what these guys do in a game in terms of blocking schemes?
Usually you're blocking the plays that you have installed offensively. So philosophically, whether it's the power, a lot of people block the power the same way. Some people teach different steps, different splits, different things like that. But for the most part, running plays are running plays, and I think across the board, you watch all of college football, a lot of people block the same plays the same way. So when you talk about scheme-wise, there's not always a lot of change. I think philosophically there could be changes in how you play people, what protections you use, but that's some O-line coaches are different than others. So I'm certain there's been some changes in that room from that dynamic, but a lot of the players are the same.
And is it contributing to what's gone on the last couple of games with
What went on last year?
in terms of run block?
Yeah,
Not as good as they'd like, probably.
it's the same way we feel. So I mean, to me, that's the biggest difference is they've changed the coaches, but a lot of the personnel's the same on the offensive line. You know, and you got to do a great job of getting those guys better. We got to keep getting them stronger throughout the year. We got to become a physical football team that can run the ball. That our identity is not going to change. We got to do that. We got to be stubborn and believe we're going to do that, and we got to just play better.
Coach, Lamont Gaillard is listed as the starter at right guard for this week. I know we saw a little bit of Deshaun Sims and Solomon Kinley sort of coming in after that timeout right there. Is Gaillard the plan at right guard moving forward?
Yes.
Staying on the offensive line, is there any thought about experimenting and shuffling some guys around, them in different spots, and give them different opportunities?
What are you suggesting?
Not really suggesting. I mean, Isaiah's played some left tackle.
Move Isaiah, move Catalina in?
No, just in general. I mean, maybe, but Isaiah. I mean, Catalina's
Because
right.
we
like
had
that.
practiced that in camp and tried that already. And we looked at every combination we can, and we'll continue to do that. Those guys practice when y'all aren't there, besides the 12 minutes you are there. They do those things, and we look at them. And we go against defense. We go against, Trenton and John, and then we go over and do one-on-one pass rush when you guys aren't there, and they pass pro, and Isaiah plays tackle, and different guys play guard. And then at the end of the week, we say, what's our best lineup? So, hope that answers your question.
Kirby, the last 3 weeks, we got the first game, first win, first SEC win. Are you kind of glad now that things kind of settle in, and I call it kind of the getting into the rhythm of the season, where there's less distractions, etc.? Are you?
It's not really like that for me, though. I mean, really, to be honest with you, the season's the season. So it hasn't been the first this, because I felt like the first game was the road game, because we went and played at the Georgia Dome. And it's really not, for me, I feel like every week's been the same. It's game week. We have a game week routine, and every week that routine's been the same. So it really hasn't been one week different than the other. I try to make sure that the opponent names, faceless, all that doesn't matter. We're trying to focus on us, because we certainly got a lot to work on. We got a long way to go.
With throwing the ball 55 times, it looked as if the pass blocking was pretty quality from the offensive line against Missouri, but the run blocking may have slipped at times. What do you have to do to create a more balanced offense sort of up front?
You have to be able to run the ball better. And effectively, I don't, we talked about run efficiency. We were only run efficient in the first game. And efficiency for us is the success at which you run it on first down, second down, and third down. And we haven't been run efficient in the last 2 games. So we've asked, how do we do that better? We have to create opportunities that our kids can be successful in. And that's the challenge we have as coaches, and that's the challenge we're going to issue to our players.
I'll prepare for you to stare daggers at me. Are you reviewing your policy on scholarships to place kickers?
Oh, no, I don't have a policy on scholarships. What policy do I have on scholarships to place kickers?
You said in the spring, you think it's easier to find walk-on, basically.
Well, we didn't have any to sign this year, because basically when we got here, every good kicker that I had known in recruiting was signing somewhere. All right, and we're going to always go and recruit kickers. It's a matter of whether we're going to commit a scholarship to it or not. That is not a policy by any means. I firmly believe that you got to have a great kicker. I've been around when you didn't. And that to me is, can we find the best one? And can the best one be the best one? Because I've been around the ones that come and they're the best one at the camp, then they come into your place and they're not, and now you've got them for 4 years. So I think there's a fine line in that. Just like experience last year at Alabama, we had a Panero kid that was unbelievable. And we put him on scholarship, no doubt. He's committed there, and then he ends up flipping going to Florida. So if there's a guy that's a difference maker, certainly going to be able to scholarship that guy. And we will continue to look in that mode.
Kirby, last week, obviously Charles Harris disrupted. You play another one in Marquise Haynes. How are they? Are they similar, different? How do they go about their business?
They're both really good players. Coach Chaney really felt, and I felt like Charles Harris was a really good player coming out of the game. He was better than we even thought. And going into this game, Marquise Haynes is a really good player, and we know that. Seeing that firsthand. He's a dominant pass rusher. He can disrupt plays. Talented player. They got some similarities, but Haynes has just done it for a longer period of time.
Regarding kickoffs, what's been going on with Rodriguez? I guess you guys switched it up during the last game, and I think you alluded to maybe some kick coverage guys were missing. Did you have some injuries there or something?
No, we had guys getting injured, so we're getting depleted there. Tim Hill went down, who had been doing a good job. Reggie Murphy had an ankle in the game, but that wasn't what contributed, I think, to the kick coverage. It was more ball placement, hang time, those things with Rodrigo. And he knows, we've been very honest with Rodrigo. He's got to improve in that area. And to be honest, he did show improvement against Nichols, and then it went down and didn't kick as good. So if he's not kicking as good, I can't continue to do the same thing. And we've got competition going on at that. And just like the old linemen, they practice every day, and we chart it, and we usually tend to make the decision based on what happens in practice, and that's what we did last week. I mean, he kicked better in practice, but he didn't do that in the game. So we went with him.
Kirby, being a former DB, are you satisfied with the back end play right now? Last week there were some big plays, and as a safety, there's one main responsibility is not to let the play behind you. How's that progressing?
Well, first is what's your definition of satisfied? Because I'm never satisfied when you give up 50 yards passing as we gave up. Satisfaction to me comes in every player playing to the best of his ability, and every coach putting those players in the best situations. Have we done that? No. So I am not satisfied.
Last question.
Coach, after the North Carolina game, you said Christian Payne was one of the players of the game. Can you assess his game, especially being able to catch the ball in the backfield, especially from the touchdown, and assess how they played on Saturday?
Yeah, Christian Payne played a really good game against North Carolina. He played physical and did some good things for us. The last 2 games, he probably hasn't played as well. He has caught the ball out of the backfield very effectively, and he is a tough, hard-nosed player that plays as hard as he can. But we've got to do a better job with him of getting some movement on people and creating some space in the run game. And I think he knows that. That's a challenge for him, and he'll continue to work at it. But I am very proud of the fact that he caught most of the balls thrown to him and gave us kind of a different element there in the pass game, in that last game. Thank you, guys.